If you think one bad investment or one wrong purchase is what ruins people financially, think again. I did not lose $340,000 in one dramatic explosion. I lost it slowly, silently, in the tiny money mistakes that felt harmless, the ones everyone around me told me were normal. 9 decisions that looked responsible, looked mature, even looked smart. But each one quietly chipped away at my future. And if you are making even 3 of these mistakes right now, your next decade might cost you far more than money. Money mistake. Number 1. Ignoring opportunity. Because you are waiting for the perfect time. If there is one mistake that silently destroyed more potential wealth for me than anything else, it was waiting for everything to be perfect before I took action. I used to tell myself I would invest when the market felt safer, when the economy stopped acting weird, when I had more money saved, or when I finally felt fully ready. The problem was simple. Life never presented a moment that checked every box. And while I waited for the ideal timing, opportunity moved on without me. There was a moment early in my career that I still replay in my mind. A business owner I respected offered me a small percentage partnership if I joined his growing venture. He saw something in me that I failed to see in myself at the time. I looked at the offer and convinced myself that the risk was too high. The timing felt inconvenient. I thought to myself, I will catch the next one when things settle. Things did not settle. The company grew, expanded, and eventually sold for a figure that still punches my stomach when I think about it. Had I taken that opportunity, only 5% ownership would have turned into more than $180,000. All because I waited for perfect circumstances that never arrived. Here is the irony most people never see until it is too late. The worst decisions are not the wrong ones you make. The worst decisions are the ones you never take. The window of opportunity does not stay open until you feel emotionally comfortable. Opportunity is like a moving train. If you keep waiting for the train to slow down so you can step on safely, it will pass right by you while you stand holding your luggage of excuses. Waiting feels responsible. Waiting feels mature. Waiting feels like preparation. But waiting is usually disguised fear. The fear of failing, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of what others will say, and the most expensive fear of all, the fear of being uncomfortable. The truth is simple. Anyone who achieved anything significant stepped forward before they felt ready. Wealth does not reward perfection. Wealth rewards participation. The fix is simple but not easy. Make decisions based on direction, not perfection. If the opportunity aligns with your goals, if the risk is measured, and if the potential payoff moves your future forward, then stop searching for a feeling of safety that exists only in imagination. Your future self will never regret the chances you took with intention. It will only regret the ones you postponed until the opportunity expired. Money mistake number 2, thinking high income automatically equals wealth. One of the most dangerous beliefs I carried in my 20s was the assumption that earning more money would automatically solve all of my financial problems. I believed the moment I reached a certain income level, life would finally feel easier, I would start saving consistently, and everything would fall into place. Many people hold the same belief at 20, at 30, and even at 40. But income without discipline is like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. It feels refreshing for a moment, but slowly, quietly, and predictably, everything leaks away. I remember the first period in my life where I started earning what I considered real money. I felt proud of myself. I worked hard. I believed this was the turning point. So I did what millions of people do. I rewarded myself. I upgraded things that did not need upgrading. I convinced myself I deserved it because I worked for it. A better car, nicer clothes, weekends that cost more than the paycheck I used to earn. I was not irresponsible. I was simply doing what society applauds. The problem was that every increase in income came with an equal increase in lifestyle. Here is the reality nobody warns you about. When your lifestyle rises in perfect sync with your income, you did not actually improve your life. You only expanded the cage. What once felt like a luxury becomes normal. What once felt exciting becomes expected. Your new lifestyle becomes your new baseline, and you must maintain it month after month. Suddenly, the salary that once felt life-changing now barely feels like survival, and you convince yourself the answer is yet again more. I met people in their 30s and 40s driving impressive cars, living in polished apartments, dressed to appear successful while secretly drowning in monthly payments. I also met people who quietly lived below their income, made calm and steady financial decisions, and eventually had the freedom everyone else envied. The difference was not intelligence, it was not luck, it was not opportunity, it was discipline. Wealth is not measured by how much you earn, it is measured by how much you keep and how much you grow. A person earning $50,000 with strong discipline can surpass someone earning six figures with none, because wealth builds quietly in the gap between income and expenses, not in the applause of lifestyle display. The fix is simple to understand, but difficult for the ego to accept. When your income increases, your lifestyle should not automatically follow. Keep the gap, protect the gap, grow the gap, because that gap is where wealth lives, that gap is where opportunity breathes, and that gap is the difference between a life of stress and a life of choice. Money mistake. 3. Trusting traditional advice without questioning the source. When I was younger, I made the mistake almost everyone makes. I assumed that if advice came from someone older, someone confident, someone with a suit, or someone with a job title, it had to be correct. I believed financial advice was safe simply because it sounded responsible and came wrapped in words like security, stability, and the smart thing to do. I never stopped to ask the most important question: is this person winning at the game they are teaching me to play? I remember listening to a relative who had worked for the same company for over 25 years. He meant well, and his intentions were kind, but his financial reality was nothing I wanted to duplicate. He lived paycheck to paycheck, carried debt like a shadow, and planned to rely entirely on a pension that kept shrinking every year. Yet he delivered advice with complete certainty. Do not take risks. Do not start a business. Stick with something safe. The problem was not that he was wrong. The problem was that he was advising based on his world, not mine. The most expensive lesson I learned is that most financial advice is not intentionally misleading. It is simply outdated. Advice that worked 50 years ago was built for a world where jobs were permanent, houses were affordable, pensions were reliable, and one salary supported an entire family. That world no longer exists, yet people still repeat the same advice because it has been handed down like a family heirloom, even though its value has completely vanished. Here is where the damage becomes real. If you follow outdated advice, you build an outdated life. You prepare for a world that does not exist anymore. You focus on safety while the financial landscape shifts beneath your feet. And by the time you realize it, the cost is not just money, it is time. Years of potential growth lost to strategies that never had the strength to support your ambitions. The turning point in my journey came when I stopped asking, "Who is giving me advice?" and started asking, "Do I want the results they have?" When the answer was no, I stopped listening, even if it made people uncomfortable. The moment you begin filtering advice through results rather than familiarity, your financial trajectory changes dramatically. The fix is simple but uncomfortable. Only take financial advice from people who are successful in the direction you want to go. If someone has never built wealth, never created financial freedom, and never lived the life you are striving for, their opinion may be valid, but it is not valuable. Seek guidance from people who have already walked the path. Learn from those who failed and improved. Listen to those whose reality reflects your destination, not your fears, because advice is not just words. Advice is a blueprint, and the blueprint you follow determines the life you build. Money mistake. 4. Chasing too many opportunities. Instead of mastering one, this mistake cost me more than money. It cost me time, focus, progress, and years of potential momentum. The world today glorifies doing everything. Social media celebrates the person with 5 businesses, 3 side hustles, crypto investments, real estate flips, content creation, and something called residual income that no one can actually explain. And people fall for it because it looks like growth, but it is really fragmentation. There was a period in my life where I chased every new idea that crossed my path. If someone said a market was hot, I jumped. If a friend made money doing something, I assumed it must be the next gold mine. I spread myself across too many ventures, believing that the more things I started, the faster I would win. But all I really did was divide my attention into pieces so small that nothing received the focus required to win. Here is what people do not understand until they experience it the hard way. An opportunity is only an opportunity if you can give it the attention, skill, and persistence required to succeed. Otherwise, it is a distraction wearing a costume. The reason this mistake is so financially devastating is because starting something always costs more than maintaining something. The beginning demands your time, your energy, your learning curve, your mistakes, and your money. When you start 5 things and master none, you pay 5 times the cost and receive 0 times the reward. I knew a man, brilliant, talented, incredibly creative, but he made this exact mistake. He started 8 different projects in a single year. A clothing brand, a YouTube channel, a podcast, digital products, 2 side hustles, a course, and a silent partnership that cost him more than silence. Every conversation began with excitement and ended with a different plan. By the end of the year, he was exhausted, embarrassed, and in debt. Not because his ideas were bad, but because his attention was diluted. Success multiplies when focus narrows. One skill mastered becomes leverage. One business refined becomes scalable. One reputation established becomes a magnet for future opportunities. You earn the right to diversify only after you dominate something first. When I finally learned this, everything changed. Instead of chasing 10 things with 10% effort, I chose one thing with 100% discipline. It was not glamorous. It was not fast. It was not filled with dopamine or novelty. But it worked, because mastery compounds in a way that multitasking never will. Here is the fix. Pick something that aligns with your goals, your strengths, and your future, and commit to seeing it through the boring part, the frustrating part, the nothing is happening part, because those quiet stretches of discipline are where most people quit and where wealthy people separate themselves forever. Do fewer things. Do them better. Do them long enough that the results become undeniable. Because success does not come from chasing everything, it comes from finishing something. Money mistake number 5. Assuming income growth would magically solve everything. There was a time early in my career when I believed the most common financial myth in the world. When I start earning more, everything will fall into place. I thought my problems were a result of not making enough, And once I reached a certain income level, all my stress would disappear. But when I finally earned more, something shocking happened. My expenses grew faster than my income ever did. You see, most people do not realize that the moment income increases, psychological spending increases with it. Lifestyle expands, standards expand, expectations expand. You convince yourself that new comforts are now needs, not luxuries. The brain adjusts frighteningly fast to upgrades. And once you normalize them, going backward feels like failure, not discipline. When I landed one of my first big contracts, I felt invincible. I upgraded my car. I started dining out more. I bought gadgets I did not need and justified each one with the same delusion. Well, I earn more now? Every bit of financial advice I neglected suddenly made sense when I looked at my bank balance after 12 months and saw absolutely nothing to show for it. Income solves nothing if habits remain unchanged. I knew someone who was the definition of this mistake. Brilliant job, incredible paycheck, bonuses, benefits. Yet every year he was more stressed. The moment he got a raise, he replaced his perfectly good car. When he got another boost, he upgraded to a bigger house. A holiday on credit here, a designer purchase there, all justified by the illusion of progress. Eventually, a single unexpected emergency put him into financial chaos. If your spending rises with your income, you are not earning more. You are just accelerating the speed of staying broke. Here is the brutal truth nobody wants to accept. There are people earning $45,000 who are wealthier than people earning $145,000 because one learned control and the other learned entitlement. The fix is powerful but simple. When your income increases, your lifestyle should not automatically follow, at least not immediately. Give your future money the chance to grow before your present self consumes it. Every raise should increase your freedom, not your furniture. Every promotion should elevate your net worth, not your monthly payments. Real financial power is not how much you earn. It is how much you keep, how much you multiply, how much you allow to work while you sleep. Because if more money only fuels more spending, then your income is not a blessing. It is a distraction disguised as progress. Money mistake number 6, waiting for the perfect time to invest, if there is one. Mistake that quietly drains more future wealth than bad jobs, bad purchases, and bad luck combined. It is this: waiting. Waiting until the economy stabilizes. Waiting until salaries increase. Waiting until debts are cleared. Waiting until life is less chaotic. Waiting until confidence magically appears. Years ago, I waited. I waited because every expert had a different opinion. I waited because news headlines made investing sound like gambling. I waited because I told myself I needed to learn just a little bit more. But here is what I learned the hard way. The perfect moment never announces itself. It does not knock. It does not introduce itself politely. It appears only in hindsight, years after the opportunity has passed. When I finally started investing, later than I should have, I discovered the painful truth. The cost of waiting is invisible at first, then brutal when it shows up. I once had a friend who was convinced he was being smart by keeping everything in cash until the market calms down. That temporary waiting period lasted 6 years. During those 6 years, the market grew. Compounding worked tirelessly for other people. And while he felt safe, his money was quietly losing value every single day. He once told me confidently, "Mark, I will start when the timing is right." The funny thing is, nobody ever feels like the timing is right. Fear convinces people they are being wise when they are actually being paralyzed. Let me explain the psychological trap behind this mistake. When the market is up, people say, It is too risky to enter now. I will wait for a dip. When the market is down, people say, it is too dangerous right now. I will wait until it recovers. Both roads lead back to the same destination, never starting. I learned this after losing opportunities that could have grown quietly while I slept, while I worked, while I lived my life. Money does not require your attention, only your permission to compound. The wealthy do not wait for clarity. They create clarity by beginning. The fix is simple but uncomfortable. Start before you feel ready. Start before it makes perfect sense. Start with what you can, not what you hope for. Because the people who win are not the ones who wait for perfect conditions. They are the ones who start in imperfect ones. Time beats timing. Consistency beats brilliance. Momentum beats hesitation. You can fix mistakes along the way, but you can never recover the years you spent waiting. Money, mistake number 7. Trusting verbal promises instead of written agreements. This mistake is the one that truly left a scar because it cost me money, time, friendships, and peace, all in one blow. I grew up believing that loyalty meant never needing a contract. I believed a handshake was enough. I believed a sincere voice carried more weight than a signature. And for a while, it felt honorable. It felt old school. It felt right, until it did not. Let me take you back to the deal that cost me more than $100,000 and nearly cost me my future. I partnered with someone I trusted. We shared ideas, profits, late-night strategy sessions, and the excitement that comes with believing you have found the perfect person to build with. We agreed verbally on everything, how profits would be split, who owned what, who was responsible for what. We shook hands, we celebrated, we trusted each other. But here is the part most people do not learn until it is too late. People change when money arrives, and if they do not change, their circumstances do. One day, this partner decided the business was more his than mine. Suddenly, the friendly conversations turned into arguments. The agreements we believed were crystal clear began sounding blurry. His memory of the handshake was not the same as mine. And because nothing was written, nothing was enforceable. I remember sitting across from a lawyer who said words that felt like a punch to the stomach. Your handshake does not prove anything. Without a contract, this becomes his version versus yours. That was the moment I learned a painful truth. Verbal promises build friendships, written agreements protect them. The emotional cost of that mistake hit harder than the financial one. The stress, the betrayal, the disappointment, the way it affected my motivation and confidence. Money can be replaced, trust cannot. Most people avoid contracts because they worry it will make things awkward. They say things like, "We are friends. We understand each other. He would never do that. We have known each other for years." But contracts are not for when everything goes right. They are for the days when everything goes wrong. A contract forces clarity. It defines expectations before emotions get involved. It protects both sides, not just one. Even family should have contracts, especially family. The fix is simple. Never start a business, investment, lease, sale, partnership, loan, service, or project without a written agreement drafted and signed. It does not mean you distrust someone. It means you respect both of your futures. And here is the irony. The people who resist contracts the most are usually the ones who need them the most. Protect yourself. Protect your time. Protect your peace. Because nothing is more expensive in life than trusting the wrong person with the right intentions. Money, mistake. Or 8. Treating savings as leftovers instead of a priority. This mistake is the silent financial killer, not because it wipes you out quickly, but because it prevents you from ever building anything meaningful. It disguises itself as discipline. It makes you feel responsible. It even convinces you that you are trying, but it leads to the same outcome every single time. You save what is left, and nothing is ever left. Let me paint the picture, because this was my routine for years. Paycheck comes in, bills get paid, groceries, fuel, eating out, little purchases that seem harmless, a birthday here, a night out there, new clothes, something on sale you could not pass up. Then at the end of the month, I would look at the balance and say, well, next month I'll save more. This month was just unusual. And every month became unusual. Every expense was important. Every purchase was justified. This is the trap millions fall into. When savings depend on willpower, savings die. And it is not because you are irresponsible. It is because humans are wired to consume while we are comfortable, not save while we are comfortable. Here is the truth I learned, late, painfully, and after losing tens of thousands of dollars in what I believed were just harmless spending phases. If you do not pay yourself first, you will pay everyone else forever. The moment I changed the order, not the amount, everything changed. I did not suddenly earn more money. I did not suddenly become more disciplined. I simply switched the list. 1. Pay yourself first. 2. Pay bills second. 3. Spend what is left. Guilt-free. The psychological shift is enormous. When you save first, you adapt your lifestyle to your plan. When you save last, you adapt your financial future to your spending. And there is something even more powerful that nobody talks about. When you save first, you stop feeling punished by money. You stop feeling guilty when you treat yourself. You stop feeling like every purchase is costing you your future. Why? Because your future was already funded. Let me tell you a short story. When I first started saving first instead of last, I chose a small percentage, something I would not notice too much. At the time, it felt pointless. What difference will this make? I thought. Fast forward, those tiny amounts became the money I used to launch a business partnership. That partnership became a profitable exit. That exit changed my life. Not because the amount was massive, but because the habit was consistent. That is the part that will separate the wealthy from the worried. Consistency turns small money into big opportunities. Inconsistency turns big money into wasted potential. So here is the rule I live by now. Savings is not a leftover. It is the first bill you pay. And it is the only bill that pays you back. If you are in your 20s or early 30s, this shift alone can completely rewrite your future, even if the number is small in the beginning, because it is not the size of the seed, it is the commitment to planting one. Money mistake. 9. Confusing movement with progress, the most expensive illusion of all. If there is one mistake that destroyed more of my time, drained more of my energy, and cost me more opportunity than any bad investment, any failed partnership, or any financial setback, it is this. I spent years being busy instead of being effective, and I convinced myself that motion meant progress. This mistake does not attack your wallet first. It attacks your mindset. It tells you a comforting lie. If you are working hard, you are doing well. But that is the most dangerous belief a driven person can ever adopt, because the world rewards results, not effort. Let me show you how this trap pulls you in without you ever noticing. When I first started trying to build wealth, I was constantly in motion, attending meetings, replying to every message instantly, saying yes to every idea, every collaboration, every maybe opportunity that crossed my path. I wore busy like a badge of honor. People would ask, "How are things, Mark?" And I would proudly answer, "Flat out, mate, busy non-stop, working like crazy." And do you know how that made me feel? Important, productive, like success was just around the corner because I was grinding while others were sleeping. But there was one massive problem. I was moving, but I was not moving forward. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and despite all the chaos, stress, and late nights, nothing meaningful changed. Yes, I was active, but I was not effective. Here is the painful truth I finally had to face. Being busy is the easiest way to avoid doing the work that actually matters. Hard work feels valuable. Deep focus feels uncomfortable. Scrolling opportunities, researching ideas, making endless lists, it all feels productive. But it is a trap disguised as progress. Why? Because it keeps your brain satisfied while keeping your life stagnant. There are 3 reasons this mistake destroys wealth. 1. Busyness feels safer than commitment. Exploring 10 ideas feels easier than committing to one. Trying 5 side hustles feels safer than mastering one skill. Talking to 20 people feels comfortable compared to selling to one. Commitment creates the possibility of failure, and failure scares people more than stagnation. So we choose movement over progress because movement keeps the illusion alive. 2. Busyness protects the ego. If you fail while trying one thing, you cannot blame distraction. You cannot hide behind, "I was too busy." You must admit it did not work. But if you juggle 12 things at once, failure is never your fault. It is the workload. "It would have worked if I had more time." That excuse is the most expensive comfort blanket I ever owned. 3. Busyness delays success. Success requires clarity. Clarity requires focus. And focus requires saying no far more often than saying yes. Let me tell you a story that shifted everything for me. There was a period where I had 2 business ideas on the table, a potential partnership opportunity, and a side project that I kept telling myself might turn into something huge. I spent months juggling them, researching, planning, brainstorming, discussing, without realizing I was not building anything. I was just circling the runway, refusing to land the plane. Finally, a mentor of mine sat me down and asked, "Mark, which of these would you still pursue if it was the only one you were allowed to work on for the next 2 years?" The moment he said it, I knew. One idea stood above the rest. One direction mattered. Everything else was noise. I cut the distractions, focused every ounce of energy into that one project, and in 12 months, it outperformed what all 3 could have ever created combined. That was when I learned something that changed how I operate forever. You can do 10 things with weak force or 1 thing with unstoppable force, but you cannot do both. The fix, the 1 goal, 3 task rule. Here is the system that helped me escape the busyness illusion. Choose 1 primary goal for the next 12 months. Identify 3 tasks that directly drive that goal. Every morning ask, "Did I move one of those 3 tasks forward today?" If the answer is no, you were active but not effective. Movement feels good. Progress feels uncomfortable. But only one pays you. And here is the real twist. The richest people I know are not the busiest. They are the most focused. People think billionaires have chaotic lives. They do not. Their calendars are empty on purpose. Their boundaries are strict by design. Their decisions are narrow but powerful. Because wealth is not created by doing more. Wealth is created by mastering less. You now have all 9 mistakes, the real mistakes, the ones that quietly stole years, opportunities, and more money than any bad investment ever could. Mistakes built from pressure, from expectation, from ego, from culture, from habits we never question because everyone around us lives the exact same way. But here is the defining difference between the winners and the worriers. Most people repeat mistakes out of routine. Successful people break them with intention. By now, you have seen the real story behind the money mistakes that cost me $340,000, not in a single catastrophic moment, but piece by piece, decision by decision, habit by habit. And that is the part most people never truly understand until it is far too late. Financial success is rarely built through dramatic victories, but financial failure is almost always built through tiny mistakes repeated consistently. That is how it happens, not with explosions, but with leaks, not with disasters, but with delays, not in the moments you panic about, but in the moments you do not even notice. Let me say something I wish someone had told me when I was young. The danger is not that you are doing the wrong thing. The danger is that you are doing nothing. People believe time will fix it. They believe opportunity will find them later. They believe money will get easier when they earn more. They believe discipline will magically appear when life calms down. But life does not calm down. Discipline does not appear on its own. Money does not fix money problems. And time is not your friend, not in finances. Every mistake you refuse to fix compounds quietly. Every habit you delay strengthens its grip. Every year you wait is not neutral. It costs you. And one day, the price is no longer symbolic. It is in your bank account, your options, your freedom, your future. Here is the good news, and it is the reason you are still here watching this. Awareness is the turning point. Responsibility is the fuel. Consistent action is the engine. You do not need perfection. You do not need to turn your entire life around overnight. You simply need to make one better decision more consistently than the person you were yesterday. Save intentionally, spend deliberately, invest early, learn continuously, and never, never measure your progress by how fast others appear to be moving, because most people you compare yourself to are sprinting toward a finish line built on debt, stress, pressure, and fear. Your path is different. Your foundation is different. Your future can be different. If you choose differently today. If you want the next step, the real next step, the one that shows you how to structure your money every time you get paid so it grows automatically instead of disappearing silently. I have the perfect guide waiting for you right up here. But before you click it, make sure you subscribe if you want to stop repeating the mistakes that keep most people stuck and finally start building the financial future your younger self dreamed about. And your older self will thank you for. All right. I will see you over there.